Let me start by thanking every single person who came out today. You know, given the elements, and again, I think Coke Arena is notorious for the fans and the support, and I think it's evident on a day like today for everybody to show up. I had more ticket requests than normal. People usually don't bother me, so just really appreciative. I thought, especially when you have a weather situation, we played multiple clips for our guys in previous 48 hours, knowing that there was going to be some snow. People excited about the opportunity to be in the snow, so that way that they had the right attitude. And all that to say, I appreciate the fans having the right attitude, showing up to support, because it's easy to sit in your home and watch this by the fireplace, and just really thankful to everybody who took the time in order to show up.
You think they heard your message from yesterday? College basketball is best with the fans?
Yeah, I mean, it's college basketball is just so unique because of how passionate the fan base is. And this is, Wichita State has a passionate fan base. So I'm glad we gave them something to cheer about. As we led for the 36 minutes, 37 minutes of the game, got down to opening 2 minutes. But, after that, we were up the rest of the way. So I'm glad we gave them something to actually cheer about.
Speaking of the fan base, they've kind of bought into this Memphis rivalry in recent years. How did you prepare your guys for that?
I mean, it was a game. We didn't really think of it more than anything else, and I don't know that we would approach any game differently than anybody else. But the goal, obviously, is just to go 1-0. And when you play Wednesday night and then Thursday, you don't do much. It's a lot of film, and then basically have one day. And you could see us botch some stuff the first time around. It's somewhat difficult to just do your guys understand. So you're kind of having to coach them through it. The second time around, usually players are better, but coaches are too. They understand how they're going to counter. I thought we did a good job, and I know that Memphis missed some shots, but told those guys 3 for 19. And then at the same time, I just thought our activity level was great. To have KB down there getting fouled, but I thought our interior ability was really good, and then we were doing the right things in pick and roll, and to be able to get that kind of lead early, and to hold them to 31% there in the first half and kind of establish ourselves offensively. I thought that was the thing that really carried us.
I feel like, we keep talking about him, but what impressed you the most out of Dylan tonight?
Well, I would tell you that TJ, Dillon, and Will, we had 17 assists on the 30 made buckets. They had 10 of the 17. And so, TJ, 3 assists, no turnovers. They were double teaming Will, and I thought DB had a cut in order to get himself an opportunity off a dunk. Thought the timing of it was really good. We didn't know that they were going to double, and so he's supposed to space there anyway. But I thought it clicked, because sometimes he can be a space cadet and just be out there and float, and we have to remind him of things. But for him to have 3 assists, it's pretty impressive, because that's not really TJ. You can kind of see it. He's willing to defer. Dylan's not really willing to defer. You saw that with the first shot that he took when they were plugging so hard in the paint. He was just like, man, they're challenging me to shoot. And it's like, we need you to be a connector. But again, I thought his passing ability, the 10 assists from those 3 spots. Am I giving E-Man credit? Yeah, he came up with 0. So those 3 guys to have 10 assists is a pretty big deal.
How impressive was the physicality you saw from your guys from start to finish?
Yeah, I thought Will Berg was phenomenal. I just thought he was assertive. He was going to play through people. He wasn't going to back away. I think, he kind of hears it sometimes when he misses shots, and like, how are you that big, and how do you miss shots that close? But it's usually from people who, I've never been 7'2", but it's usually people who've never played basketball and they don't understand the level of difficulty it is. But I just think he continues to get better and better and better, and he's such a good teammate. And the one thing that I really admire about Will is Will will talk through things with you during the game and say, this is what's happening. And hey, E-Man may be a better fit knowing that this is occurring. But all of that to say, I thought he was super assertive.
Players talked about being physical from the start, throwing the first punch. How do you get that out of this group? How do you coach that first start?
Well, you're not going to win the game in the first 5 minutes, but the tone is going to be set in the first 5 minutes. And you go back to that East Carolina game, I think we had 5 offensive rebounds at the first media, and we were assertive and we were aggressive. And again, Memphis makes you play a style that is not going to be pretty. Nobody's going to go away from a Memphis game and say, look at all these wonderful sets, how they were able to run. Like, you're going to have to be able to play in space just because of their desire to muck it up. And just know that, you know what, they're just trying to turn you over and get guys in a situation to where you're playing disadvantaged basketball. I thought we were hurt a little bit with our transition defense, just weren't getting back. Some of that had to do with us crashing and just not being able to retrieve basketballs. But you got to kind of play through those situations. I thought that, again, it's a reminder of stay aggressive. And I tell you who I thought was aggressive was Brian Ammunique. He comes in and we've gotten, prior to the last game, he's played 18 games. He's shot only 4 games where he shot more threes than twos. And we've had to tell Brian, like, your job is to shoot the ball, all right? So don't overthink this. This isn't a challenge to see if you can't go in there and finish. And just really encouraging him, like, you need to turn around and be able to shoot the ball. And I just appreciate the fact that he was not gun shy. And I thought those 3 threes in the first half kind of gave us a leg up.
As you guys are getting towards the end of January, you've won games because, Kenny Giles has scored big numbers and everything like that. As people get more film on them, how important has it become to have, 4 guys in double digits?
Yeah, and I would, well, we've been getting him the ball a little bit earlier and kind of, dragging it a little bit earlier, setting higher screens. When you get hit by E-Man and Will Berg, I think 2 different times their players, weren't even able to continue to play just on account of KG. But KG kind of understands the space and everything that's involved. What did KG finish with here? The 3 assists, 1 turnover. Like, he's more than willing to get rid of it too. And because of his speed and his ability to get out there and just kind of attract attention, it gives us board opportunities. And so we kind of encourage him to not be gun shy. I don't think that's ever a term that's been associated with him anyway. But I think you've seen it last game where he's drawing attention because we just eliminated a guard from play, and he's passing to other people in order to allow them to score. And then I would tell you the same thing happened. TJ makes an assist to E-Man, and E-Man makes an assist to KB. On the backside, they don't rotate, but that's just because of KG's presence.
Yeah, when you see like the growth from some of these younger guys like Dylan and Brian, playing off of 2 feet, you mentioned that with Dylan, that first start, he's progressed, and I think Brian played off 2 feet and got that dunk to E-Man. That's when they called the timeout. Is that what kind of gets you fired up to see young guys progress like that during the season?
I mean, you have to make plays under control. And I know a lot of these guys think that they're under control, and then you go back and you watch the film and you just realize how imbalanced you are. And so it's something we spend a great deal of time on, and again, they understand that that's going to benefit the team, you being under control. And when you play a team like Memphis, who's just causing so much in the way of turnovers, it kind of gets emphasized. And so for them, I'm glad they'll get to see the film and then understand the reasoning behind it, and hopefully encourage them more to be in those situations.
I know you said not a lot of the plays are going to be pretty, but can you talk a little bit about that one-hand slam Dylan had on the baseline OB, I believe?
Yeah, I mean, that was after a challenge. We challenged the call, and then we came in and ran a play. Yeah, you know what? I mean, it was something that we worked on. A lot of people don't play zone like that. So when a lot of people play zone on a baseline OB, they put somebody over the ball. So we have zone plays, obviously, for baseline OBs, but we haven't been able to utilize that particular play on account of most of the time when people zone up, they have somebody over the ball. So this was a play that we had. We've had to remind them of it. we were challenging that call so we could remind them of it again, and I'm glad it worked out for DB.
And you guys had like a lot of like those hustle plays, 50-50 balls. You know, Dylan's on the ground, winning loose balls. You guys are playing well on offense, getting stops, like that brand of basketball. It looked like you were pretty fired up, you know, in the first half. You guys get up like by 20. Is this just like the brand of basketball that you feel like, you know, Shocker fans really appreciate, like when you guys are playing like that?
Well, again, as I share with the guys, it is not other people's job. It's not other people's job to move us. It's our job to move them. Okay, and the only way that we can move people is you have to play inspired. You have to play connected. You have to play intense. There are intangibles. We aren't here for the crowd to get us going. Okay, and it happens, right? But people are not here to move us. We're here to move them, and players understand that. Like, I mean, we show enough videos of people being inspired by play to where they understand that you're sitting there motivated. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be motivated by Mendoza's touchdown the other day in order to seal the national championship and him going through that. So again, we are not here to be moved by people. We're here to move people. And the only way that you do that is if you play connected, tough, inspired basketball.
You say that winning's unnatural, you know, winning
Yeah.
3 in a row in conference play is probably a big deal by those terms.
Yeah, I mean, winning's hard, you know, and I know, again, from a fan perspective, a lot of people just think, you know, this is what Vegas says, so how come this didn't happen? And it doesn't work that way. I mean, it's why we love sports, right? Is because you realize that on any given day, any given night, your team could win. I would tell you that's especially true in college men's basketball. Like there's not the variance that people think there is, but you know, we need to be consistent. You need to understand that your preparation, you don't win these games necessarily in the moment, right? You're going to always fall back to the level of your training. And we've had guys who've approached the past couple of weeks just the right way. And I'm not telling you they didn't, but they've learned. I go back to the Charlotte, us responding versus Charlotte and us responding versus South Florida. They're two different responses. And guys were excited to play rather than can't believe we squandered a lead. And we had a 15-point lead on USF. And so I think you're teaching, especially when you have 12 new guys, you're teaching guys what winning looks like. And I've been fortunate to be around a lot of winning, and so I've been able to see it up close. And so I just think you're constantly in that phase, and you're fighting the things that looks like non-winning from a body language standpoint. And they've been really receptive and handled things really well.
I guess, how much connection, toughness, and inspiration do you think the guys played with today?
I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch the film. You know, you don't want to get caught up in a score. I just think outcomes sometimes trick people, and you're not focused on doing things in such a way as to win, right? I've heard too many times that if you're not doing the things in such a way, so we evaluate the such a way. Like, are we doing things in such a way as to give us a chance? So you've heard me say this, skills are king, but intangibles are supreme. And I thought our intangibles were good, but I'm going to have to go back and watch the film to see if they were good enough in order to give yourself a chance here in the conference.
Anything else?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.